Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Well, good day to you. It is November the 12th, 2020, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you happen to be. Now, if this happens to be the first time you have ever listened to a Search for Signs video, I do want to welcome and thank you. We have over 300 videos where we talk about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. We talk about who and what Maitreya is and what it means for everyone on this planet. We talk about who and what a masters are and why they're returning now. But more importantly, okay, and this should transcend any background or belief that any one of us have, okay, because we all have strong religious beliefs. I get it, and spiritual beliefs. So you might not agree with what I'm talking about in terms of who and what I believe Maitreya is, or even my experiences with Maitreya. But if you can just take from this is the most important thing you can take from any of these videos, is Maitreya's most biggest priority for humanity is that humanity must create true and lasting peace. And I'm paraphrasing by saying this, but Maitreya would say that peace should not be looked at as unobtainable or some kind of forlorn hope that maybe possibly one day, thousands of years from now, when we get everything worked out, then we'll have peace. It should be looked at as our very survival depends upon it, because that's the truth of the matter. Now, Maitreya, and this isn't paraphrasing, now Maitreya puts it like this, puts it very simply. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. Couldn't be simpler. Now, myself, Gary, he likes to put it like this. If self-preservation is an instinct in which you possess, you might want to look and see what you can do to help create peace, because we all have a hand to play in it. So hopefully that helps. Now, as always, if you have listened to these videos before, I want to welcome you back and really thank those who have taken time out of their day to comment and ask questions and so forth. That helps all of us, including myself, get to the truth of this information for ourselves. So anyway, thank you again. Now, first comment, very simple, 2 words. Hi, Gary. My answer's also very simple, 2 words. Hi, David. Next comment comes from Thomas Lynch. Hello again, blessed brother. Well, hello, Thomas. How are you? I know you have your great work cut out for you. Yet it has been brought to my attention through the blessed Chandler Arthur Fanning, the site on YouTube titled Mike 444, and it is so loaded with right up to the 4 prophecies that it is exhilarating, and I love the thought that you too will enjoy them. Well, thank you, Thomas. You're very kind for that. Now, real quick, I do have my work cut out for me, or as you put, great work cut out for me, but so do you, Thomas. So does everybody. We all have a hand to play in saving our planet. And we have to find what it is and do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait. It's very important we don't wait for this. We don't wait to see Maitreya on TV. We don't wait for Maitreya to declare himself on TV and then do it. It's best to start doing it now. So hopefully that helps. Now, the next comment comes from, am I reading this right? Vendiana X Xaviera. There has been a growing movement in the Q movement, I guess you're referring to QAnon, that Princess Diana and JFK Jr. needed to fake their own deaths and will return to expose many truths and unite people together. Perhaps Maitreya is JFK Jr. It would explain how so many people will recognize him in the media. Thank you for commenting. Now, addressing this comment, let's put it like this. Okay, so first of all, Maitreya has actually been on TV for over 10 years, speaking directly to millions of people. And yet, I personally know of someone who knows one person who recognized him. There are others, and they recognized him, but they're playing their part in it by not promoting and telling other people who they saw on TV and by what name Maitreya is using. So that's something very important to remember. So when we do recognize him, we will all recognize him on TV eventually, that it's best not to tell anybody and just let them come and find him on their own and their own time and recognize him. So it's very possible that you've already seen him, didn't recognize him. Very, very possible. But the other thing too is, so that's why I don't think it's JFK Jr. unless he's got a beard and glasses. I always kind of imagine Maitreya's on TV like Clark Kent. He's got the dark rimmed glasses and nobody can recognize him because he's wearing glasses, but yet he looks exactly like Superman. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he just has a great disguise. No. There's a lot to what you wrote in here. So first of all, in my humble opinion, the conspiracy theories that QAnon is putting out, there's no truth to any of that. Now the masters would see life as what it really is. We don't. Our life is filled with illusion of the mind, but most importantly, what humanity suffers from is illusion from the astral emotional levels. It's called glamour. And a lot of, our whole life we think is real. And it's an illusion. Our whole thoughts, our whole beliefs, our whole way we put the world together is all an illusion. It's like we're walking through a house of mirrors, and the root cause of glamour is the belief that we are separate. Now, Maitreya is going to more and more start to teach humanity the truth that we are one. And in so doing, that root, that really strong, deep root that we all have that's causing all the pains and sufferings of the world, which is the illusion and the glamour that we're separate, will start to die on its own. And so, but within conspiracy theories, like the ones that QAnon puts out, there's always this little germ of truth to it. And they kind of spin it and spin it and spin it and make it, just totally outlandish, like JFK Jr. faking his own death, or Princess Diana faking her own death. But, so for instance, there's this QAnon theory that I'm sure you've heard of, right? That of course, it's all the Democrats and the Hollywood elite that are mainly left-wing thinking politically, right, are involved in this satanic cult that feeds off of underage kids and has sex with them, and then they kill them and eat them and drink their blood. That's what they think. Okay, now, is there any truth to that? No, none whatsoever. The germ of truth is that there, and this all started right after Epstein was arrested and, of course, either killed or committed suicide in his jail cell, right? And, that there were celebrities and powerful people that participated in these parties, including Donald Trump, mind you, right? And Bill Clinton. I mean, let's call a spade, right? And they may have known what he was doing. They might not have. But as my grandmother would say when she was alive, you're guilty by association. And they're all guilty by association. Prince Andrew, the same thing. I mean, you can deny it all you want, but it's like, hey, and they probably knew. I would say there's probably more than, I'm not judging them, because it's not for me to judge them, but they probably knew to some degree that was going on. Whether they participated in it or not, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But you see what I'm saying? So there is some truth to it. Now, but there's no truth to the 99.999% of the theory itself. Now, in terms of Princess Diana, JFK coming back to expose many truths and unite people together and so forth, these masters, I'll give you an example, right? Alice Bailey talked about this. Alice Bailey was one of the writers for one of these masters who lived and wrote her books back in the early 1900s. And the master Rakuzi, who was the master Saint Germain, who was also in a previous lifetime Francis Bacon, who was a literary contemporary of Shakespeare. And he was very educated. Shakespeare was not. They were both very much on the same rung of the evolutionary ladder. They were both 3/5 of the way to being a master. Francis Bacon being quite a little bit higher evolved than Shakespeare. But for all intents and purposes, about the same. And she had commented that around the time that she was writing these materials, there was this controversy that came up that Francis Bacon wrote all of William Shakespeare's work, and William Shakespeare was just a nobody. And she said it was, she didn't say it had to. She kind of posed it as a kind of a theoretical hypothesis that theory about Francis Bacon writing all of Shakespeare's work, which there's no truth to it. Shakespeare was very advanced and wrote wrote it through that. But anyway, was starting to take hold when the master Rakuzi, who was then a master, was starting to take control of world affairs within governments. That's his role in the future, and he had just started that process, whatever he was doing on the others, as masters do on the mental plane. And once he started to do that, this theory came out. So I think the truth that they're picking up on is the fact that Maitreya is already out on TV, who will be exposing the truth that we're all one and we will be uniting the people. But yet, because of the illusion and the glamour in their own mind, they're making it out that Princess Diana and JFK Jr. faked their own death, and they're going to come out and expose this, and all that kind of stuff. So that would be the only thing that I would say that is, if there is any truth to it. Because, when these masters put out an idea that they want implemented, right? They put it out on the mind belt. And then, in terms of an invention or a scientific discovery or something like that. And then whoever's receptive to that idea all around the world will pick up on it and run with it. And there have been historical situations historically that were kind of very serendipitous that kind of prove this about the masters. But Alexander Graham Bell apparently invented a phone that was very similar to somebody else who they didn't have any contact with, that was on another side of the country or the planet. And Alexander Graham Bell put the patent in for the phone the day before the other guy did. And the reason why I say the other guy is because nobody remembers who the other guy was, you know what I'm saying? But the invention was put in at nearly the same time. So it was an idea that one of the masters put out in the mind belt that a disciple or an inventor needed to pick up on to invent, because it was an important invention that needed to be invented at that time. But Alexander Graham Bell was not the first and only person to think of it. Somebody else was thinking about almost the very same design. How could that be possible? You know what I mean? So, when Maitreya, is speaking out on TV, his thoughts, his energies go out on all the planes, not only just the physical plane. It goes out on the emotional plane, it goes out on the mental plane. And so when people who live their life on the emotional plane, which is filled with riddled with illusion and distortion, they're picking up on stuff. They might be picking up on the fact that Maitreya is on TV, and they're distorting in their own mind that it's JFK Jr. and Diana they're going to come forward. So you see what I'm saying? So it could be something like that even. So hopefully that helps. All right, but at work, we call it the feedback sandwich. So we always tell somebody what they did right, tell them what they did wrong, how to improve it, and then we tell them what they did right? So I'm going to give you the comment sandwich. So Vendiana, thank you very much for your comment, because it added to the discussion, of course. I don't agree with what QAnon believes, but thank you so much, because you really did add to the discussion. So anyway, that's the comment sandwich, Vendiana. All right, now the next question comes from Paul B. I want to clarify something before asking my next question. I believe Maitreya is not the Antichrist. I had considered the idea because of Constance Kumbi suggesting it, but I have now rejected it partly because of your answers. That's a first. Thank you very much for that, Paul. It makes me feel good. To my questions, and partly for other reasons. And I have started to suspect Kumbi is directly lying when promoting the idea as some kind of misdirection. I suspect her being a government agent because she used to work for the Michigan legislature. But I'm asking my next question because the answer to it could potentially refute her claim. Is Maitreya heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual? Okay. If he is heterosexual or bisexual, then he could not possibly be the Antichrist, even if Christianity and the Bible are true, because the Bible states the Antichrist will be a homosexual man. It states this by saying in the book of Daniel, in the 37th verse of the 11th chapter, that he will be a man who has no lust for women. So, if Maitreya has lust for women, he cannot possibly be the Antichrist, and that would be a way for me to convince Kumbi's Kool-Aid drinkers she was wrong about this. Okay. Paul, have you ever seen the TV show Seinfeld back, in the day? there was a character on there. He was very neurotic, and it was one of the funniest characters on that show. His name was George Costanza. It was played by Jason Alexander, and he was always in these lies. He would spin these lies, and they would, have humorous circumstances that would come up because of the lies. And one of the things he said, and there's some truth to this, he goes, "It's not a lie if you believe it." So, in my humble estimation of Constance Coombe, I don't think she's directly lying. I think she really believes what she's saying. Now, a healthier view, an approach to this information, rather than devoting your whole life to being against it tooth and nail, would be better to say, I don't agree with anything that Benjamin Creme said about him being the Christ. But I do think peace should be something that we should look at, and we should create justice for everybody or even, let's share the world's resource. Feed. I mean, what's wrong with that? Right? I mean, if she claims to be a Christian, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. So, but she feels it's her life's mission to expose Maitreya as the Antichrist, of course, right? But I don't think she's directly lying about it. I think she's been, barking at the wind. I don't think really people. I mean, she's a little more recognized than I am. I mean, she's not really that popular, I don't think, is she? I don't know. Maybe she is. I don't know. I mean, she's got more followers than me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it like that. But what I'm saying is that she's not. I mean, I think Benjamin Creme has more followers than she does. And if that helps in any way, shape, or form, I just don't think people really care that much. But there are Kool-Aid followers, like you're talking about, Kool-Aid drinking followers, like she said. Now, the only reason why you should distrust her is because she went to Michigan State. Anybody that goes to the University of Michigan State, shouldn't be trusted. I was born in Ann Arbor, and that's where the University of Michigan is. So anyway, I'm a Michigan fan. But anyway, I'm kidding. I'm joking. They're both great schools. So let's see. What is the other thing? So the other thing too about Daniel. Let's just get into this and then get into whether he's so. First, Maitreya is neither heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual. Okay, he's a force of nature. His love is a law in and of itself. So to say Maitreya heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual is a lot like looking at the sun and going, is the sun gay? I think the sun's gay. He's putting out gay vibes, you know what I'm saying? No, it's a force of nature, and so none of these masters, it's said that in order to be a master, they have to be free from the pull of matter, totally. And by pull of matter, it's not just physical, it's emotional desires, those kind of things, and even mental, and they're in control of all those planes perfectly. Now, it is said that these masters can and do marry, but not for the same reasons that you and I would get married. They do it as a form of service of some way. And Maitreya is never going to get married. But what I was talking about, which might have triggered this, and was that somebody was, and it might have been you, I don't remember, I can't remember if it was you, Paul, or somebody else asked the question about, the master's view on, or Maitreya's view on homosexuality. And I said that in most of these masters, if not all of them, in previous lifetimes, were homosexual at some point. I mean, it said, Benjamin Creme's master said that Maitreya, throughout the course of his lifetimes, has experienced every aspect of human endeavor, everything. So he's been a victim of rape. He's been the rapist. He's been a murderer. He's been a victim of murder. He's been a power-hungry megalomaniac, and he's been a slave. I mean, he's every aspect that you can think of that goes on in human life, he's experienced. So homosexuality is obviously a part of it. So he's obviously experienced. And I know Michelangelo was historically known as being homosexual, and he's now a master. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that the master who was Michelangelo is still homosexual. It just means that that's what he, when he was a person. So they're free from the pull of matter entirely. They have no sense of individuality in that regard. They see only one. They only see themselves, really. So to be a master, it's the ultimate form of selfishness and the ultimate form of selflessness. They only see one, So that's where it's coming from. Now, the other thing, too, is in terms of the Bible, okay, wasn't familiar with that verse by Daniel, 37th verse of the 11th chapter. So I went back and read the whole chapter. I don't personally think he was talking about an Antichrist figure in the future. I mean, that's kind of a, what do you call it? That's a stretch, but we all have our own beliefs on the Bible. So I can't say yes or no either way. But my take on it was he was probably more than likely talking about somebody during his time. But I know the Master DK, when he wrote about prophets in the Bible, I think he said there was only two. It was John and Isaiah, I think those were the two that he said. Everybody else could put two and two together, maybe were students of human nature, could read the tea leaves here or there and kind of make prognostications about the future, but they weren't true future, couldn't see the future in that way, I guess. So I don't think there's a lot of credence to Daniel seeing things about the time. When people look at the Old Testament and try to relate it to what's going on today and so forth, people do that with Nostradamus. They do that with Edgar Casey, where they take a Nostradamus quatrain and apply it to 9/11, and then you read it and it's like, okay, well, why weren't you saying this on the 10th of September? You know what I'm saying? So there's really I don't think there's a lot of truth to what they're saying. They're kind of cramming it into what's going on in the future. And I see people do it all the time with the lottery, right? They play, cash 3, cash 4 here in Georgia. And, they're like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this, but I picked, 7, 8, 9, and it came out as 2, 6, 7. Oh, but if the 7 would have been this way and that, it's just, see what I'm saying? And it was, and I was thinking about this, and if you just add one number here and subtract one number there, and it was almost this, it would have been the number. And and that's kind of how they see it. And it's the same thing, I think, for when people look at Old Testament writers and they try to cram it into this. I don't think a lot of the writers of the Old Testament were really connected in any way. I know people think it was the Holy Spirit speaking through them, but I think they were just writing. They were the intelligentsia of the time, like David and so forth. They were rather smart, especially relatively speaking to the people of the time, and they were writing to them maybe to teach them something. Maybe it was just them writing historical accounts, and it was kind of compiled into this book called the Bible, and they kind of connect the dots that way. And then it was written in after, and there was things that were put in and taken out and contributed this way, and we don't like that word, let's put in this word, and and that's been going on for centuries and centuries and centuries. So I don't really put a lot into it, but like I said, to get back to your original question. Oh, and then the other thing too is about, so if Maitreya has lust for women, he doesn't. He cannot possibly be the Antichrist, but he's not the Antichrist either. The Antichrist is an energy. But my other comment about your comment would be, why try to convince Kumbi's followers of anything anyway? Just let them believe whatever they believe. And I remember when I started this YouTube channel and I started to get comments from religious fundamentalists. He's the Antichrist, he's a this, and this is my proof as to why, based on this biblical statement and this, that, all the verse and all this kind of stuff. I was thinking to myself, how do I engage with them? And what I thought about was this, as I said, don't argue with them, just speak the truth as you see it. So you shouldn't try to convince anybody of anything, but speak the truth as you see it. Even if the truth is maybe not ultimately true, if it's the truth that you see it, then speak the truth. You know what I mean? But as Paul said in the Bible, why throw pearls to swine? So sometimes, and you would be probably surprised, Paul, that in my life, I don't go around, trying to convince people to believe this. I hear people all the time at work. I hear them in the stores. I have family members and so forth that they talk about their view about God, about Jesus, about politics, about whatever all the time. And I just smile and nod, smile and nod. And I don't engage them with this information, not because I'm scared to, obviously, because I'm talking about it. I always say my real name in this, so I'm not hiding behind any alias, right? mean, that's my name, Gary Willing. I'm right there. I talk about being in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm right there all the time. I'm right, but I don't engage them because they don't want to hear it. And if they ask questions, then I would. But if they're just going to sit there and tell me what's on their mind, most of the time I just smile and nod and move on with my day. I might drop a little bit here or there, but for the most part, I sure as hell don't try to convince them, because even my closest family members that are hardcore Republicans, like my father, I can't convince him of anything. So what's the point? He's a huge Trump supporter, believe it or not. I mean, this apple fell far from that tree. But I still love him to death, and, he and I don't talk about politics. That's the point. I just kind of steer the questions, we steer our conversation in a whole other direction. He talks about his dogs. He talks about this, so I just let him talk about that. But I don't steer it back around to me not thinking Trump is a good president. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I don't try to convince him. So hopefully that will help. Save your energy for other and bigger and better things, Paul. If, for instance, when Maitreya is out known for who he is, and Constance Coombe or people like her who are against Maitreya, I'm sure we'll be on a panel on TV. You'll see the split screen on the news or whatever like that, and they'll have the person who is against what Maitreya is talking about and how he's the Antichrist or he's wrong for his views are wrong and this, that, and the other. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. You'll be probably taken back by how Maitreya loves them too and the words that come out of his mouth toward them. And how he won't argue with them either. He'll speak the truth, and how he relates to people who are against him. It's the age-old axiom, really, that, they say that, the measure of a true, of someone's genius, you can measure it by the confederacy against them, I think is the saying, right? And everyone, I just read in the last, one of Benjamin Creme's master's article in the last video, The Perennial Light of Truth, about Helena Blavatsky and her detractors. She brought forth the truth that had been forgotten by humanity for eons, that the truth is that there is a group of masters living in the world. They are perfected members of humanity that have been working behind the scenes for eons, for the moment that they could come back into the world known for who they are and teach humanity the way forward. And it's a wondrous gift she gave humanity. And even to this day, as the master said, her name is, right next to her name is, they refer to her as a dishonest faker, a charlatan, a fake medium, an evil spirit. She's the devil herself, or whatever you want to call it. They hate her for it. But then he goes, you look at somebody like Jesus. Jesus had suffered the same fate. The gift that he gave to the world being the first time in human history, love in its perfection was manifested, and yet we killed him for it. And yet he still loved them on the cross the same way. He loved them. Forgive them not, for they know not what they do. Couldn't have said that in that situation on the cross if he had not loved them unconditionally. But you'll see Maitreya interacting with those people the exact same way. The exact same way. You'll see the Master Jesus, loving people the exact same way. We'll be taken back by their love. We'll use them as examples, And so even in the last article that I read, he said that age-old way of the resistance and so forth toward a teaching or a radical new thinking or whatever, will be mitigated by the presence of Maitreya and the masters in the world. So we got that to look forward to. But, every person throughout history that stood for change on whatever level had their detractors every single time. And that's the fear that most of us have about speaking out against the truth, is we're afraid we're going to be ridiculed. But it's a fear that we shouldn't fear. We should look at ourselves and go, wow, we're in pretty good company now. You know what I'm saying? Because, look at, Martin Luther King had his detractors. Obviously, somebody killed him for it, right? Even Mozart had his own detractors. Rembrandt had his own in the field of arts and music. Beethoven had his. But they were putting forth a new possibility of expression of beauty through art and through music. and yet people hated him for it. You know what I'm saying? Picasso had his own haters. I mean, every single one. Every single one. Susan B. Anthony had hers, just to allow women the right to vote, to be equal with men, which is the truth, which has broken forth, and changed the course of, women's rights in this country. But people hated her for it, hated her, gave her death threats in the same way. It seems to be just the way things are, but yeah, like I said, I mean, you'll be surprised, I'm sure, about how Maitreya loves them just as much as he loves you, me, the Master Jesus, Benjamin Creme, and people who are fighting tooth and nail to save our planet. So hopefully that helps. But anyway, I will leave you with the words of Benjamin Creme's master. I was going to read the article, but I don't have time. All will be well. All manner of things will be well, no matter how it looks.
Remember to
take care. Have a great day.
And help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.